I'm not poising myself as a guru. I'm not an I-know-all expert. There are so many things where people will claim, if you do this, you will go viral. If you do this, you will be successful. Yet people will do the exact opposite and yet also achieve that same level of success. And when you start going into that nitty-gritty, it can become overcomplicated that, for one, it doesn't necessarily mean it's good advice, and things change so fast. That's why I'm going to give a much more overall perspective on the creator economy today, something that you can really take with you as a broader understanding of the space. So what's the creator economy? Firstly, it's a combination of the passion and gig economy. The passion economy meaning pursuing an area that you're actually interested in, something that you want to wake up and do each day, not just a generic 9 to 5. And then the gig economy being what probably a lot of you do, whether it be photography, freelancing, or videography, things like that. The next being the democratization of the media space. Never before have there been so few gatekeepers to be able to spread your voice, spread your message to the world. Before, if you wanted to be seen by anyone, if you wanted your film to be seen, you had to be picked up by a production company or by a news station. Where now, you can just record a short video of yourself, put it online. You can write a tweet, post it out. And if it's something people resonate with enough, it will get out there. And it's one of the strongest community builders that we have ever seen in this media space. Because for one, the fact that you're able to put out what you care about most, and the ability for social media for you to find your community. Before, let's say you're interested in photography and none of your friends and family are. Well, then you're kind of stuck. Do you have to move somewhere else? Do you have to try and find all these other groups that you just have no idea where they are? Well, now you can start talking about it online. You can post your photos online and build these communities with like-minded people that just wasn't really achievable before the social media age. And then also, I believe that it will be the future of the media space. Yes, something may come around in 15 years' time that overtakes it again, who knows? But the fact that you are able to build such a deep community that anyone is able to have their own voice, and it's about pursuing something that you're genuinely interested in, means when people have to decide, do I want to choose an industry where I have no creative control, where I'm doing a 9 to 5 that I hate, or something that I'm genuinely passionate about with people who are also passionate about this thing, it becomes a much more obvious choice. So why do I do what I do in this space? Firstly, I love talking about the creator economy space because traditional institutions tend to be so far behind with it that any information that laymen tend to get is either wrong or just years late. So when uni had feedback opportunities to tell them what they did wrong, what they needed to do better, this is what I wrote for them, and then I reposted it to LinkedIn a little later. As someone who works in social media / content strategy, this recorded lecture was embarrassing. It was referencing articles from 2014 and displayed Google Plus as a solid social media strategy, which was shut down in 2019, by the way. This industry has to be updated ideally weekly, bearably 6 monthly, and at last resort yearly. I don't pay $15,000 a year to receive decade-old information that would harm anyone trying to enter the creator economy today. And this was just last term, by the way. And also really holding on to the genuine value that you can bring, because things may not grow as fast as we want. We may not see the success that we desire, but if there's 200 people watching your content, there's a few in there who are bringing genuine value from that, learned, inspired, entertained. And this is a message that I literally just got this last Thursday. And as it reads, hey man, just wanted to say that I thought your videos on here were great and very much the truth around content creating. I have a small channel and been struggling figuring out what to do with it and how much effort I should put. And it's videos like you reminded me why I was creating in the first place, so thank you. There's so much volatility in this space where you feel demotivated, where you feel like nothing's happening. It's holding on to these, remembering these. These are the reasons why you're creating in the first place. And another reason that I'm in this space is changing the perceptions that people have about it. Obviously, the traditional perceptions of social media is that it's so self-indulging, narcissistical. People just want everyone to think about them. But nowadays, the paradigm is starting to shift. People are starting to realize that it's so much more, that you're able to do so many incredible things with it. It isn't just, hey, look at me, I've got these fancy cars and these hot models. It is, I can genuinely help the world. Which luckily, while on my travels here to the Netherlands, because I figured while I'm still doing uni and work, I may as well have a nicer view, I managed to find it in the store as well. It's a great read, so I definitely recommend it if you can get it. So here's some of the positive things that can be done. The lesser known things is obviously Mr. Beast, Mark Rober, and hundreds of other creators raising over $23 million to plant over 23 million trees. And following that, it was over $32 million to take out over 32 million pounds of trash out of the ocean. and then being able to cultivate a competition of billionaires, use those egos against each other to do good. It's not about buying the most expensive car or the most expensive artwork. It's who can donate the most to charity. So poising people's ego and reputation into doing some good for this world. And also, it's about showing people that they can make a living out of what they love. I was literally speaking to a friend at the end of high school, and she was like, oh, I don't know what to study. Maybe I should do actuarial studies because there's lots of money in it. I'm like, do you enjoy it? She's like, no. And it's like, why would you want to do it? But now with the creator economy, there's so many options to pursue what you love. And I really love helping people find that opportunity and for them to pursue it themselves. For example, Livy Dunn talking about her gymnastics journey. Tim Hayden, who has his own watch brand, telling the story of that. The Law Says What, where it's a lawyer couple talking about law incidents, anything that arises, their perspectives on it. And then obviously Robert Irwin, Steve Irwin's son, talking about his conservation journey. Then why did I switch from traditional to short form content? Because I have had experience in traditional. I've helped on a couple of short films. I have engaged in more professional projects. But there are a few reasons why I chose to go with short form in the end. One of those reasons was time frame. I literally I took the production photography for this film at the start of January. Literally the start of January 2021. And it has only just started entering festivals. So something that I'm detached from, something that I no longer have any connection to, is only just now getting released. Also, I have plenty of friends whose parents are in the film industry, and they have to spend so many months away from their families each year to go and film projects across the world that it doesn't feel like you can really build a home, that you can have this consistent life and control over what you do. You pretty much go wherever, whenever someone tells you, because that's your job. While I was deciding what I wanted to pursue, I talked to Alan Gershenfield, who used to be the senior vice president of the company that made Call of Duty, which I didn't know at the time. Funny enough, I just knew him through some connections. And this is what he told me. There is a big difference between people who come to me and say they like the idea of writing versus get up every day and write, which made me think, I don't get up every day and look at feature films. I don't analyze what's happening. I don't write scripts. But there's this sort of content thing that was going on that I had loosely paid attention to. Maybe I should look into that a bit more. And a lot of people have this perception that it is this simplified thing, it's just the social media posting, it's posting to Instagram, maybe Twitter, maybe YouTube. But there is so much more potential. You're not limited to that thing. Here's just a few things that Mr. Beast is doing in his own career, in his own business. The social media pages is huge, but that's just a small component. His Beast Burger, which I believe brought in $100 million in revenue in 18 months USD. And then Feastables, which brought in $14 million in revenue in whatever it was, 3 months. Sorry, $10 million USD, 14 AUD. And then Beast Philanthropy, which has raised over $60 million for various causes, those being like Team Trees, Team Seas. Finger on the App, which was an app he created for a competition, which had over 1 million people using it. Creative Juice, which is a company he invested in, which I managed to interview the CEO of at the end of last year. And then let alone any of the other investments that he's got going on. So it isn't just this simplified thing. Whatever you want to do, you have the possibility to achieve that. And as I said before, I've had experience in both things. The top left being the national broadcast of the royal wedding. They wanted some students along. Obviously didn't get a haircut before that. Whoops. And then the next one being doing a BuzzFeed type video for my university. So I can definitely say that I would prefer the latter. So then should you be a content creator? Is it something for you? Firstly, you need to have some sort of business acumen. Sure, you can get away with having really the creative side, but it is also a small business. You're also a freelancer. You need to be aware of how the monetary side works, how contracts works, how law works, to be able to effectively operate in this space. Also, just like any other startup, you are going to be working thousands of unpaid hours. So if you don't want to be doing that, well then maybe you should just go into a straight career, enjoy that, be part of another team doing another great thing. Fantastic if that's for you. But if you want to be a content creator, don't expect to be paid for a while. And be heavily self-motivated. You're not told to do anything or when to do it. You have to figure that out on your own, which can be great because you have the freedom to go off, hang out with friends or go on a trip whenever you want, and then mold your work around that. But if you're not able to mold your work around that, then it becomes difficult. So depending what type of person you are, this may be perfect for you or it may be difficult. And also dealing with severe criticism and public judgment. Because anytime you put yourself out there, there will be people who try to bring you down, who say mean things. Sometimes it's not even intentional. They will just say something, maybe they had a bad day or whatever, you respond back in the comment section, and then they're really nice people. They just maybe didn't phrase it right. But either way, you need to have some thick skin getting into the space or develop thick skin very quickly. And there are so many things you have to be able to do within this. Like any other startup, once again, this is just a list of jobs that I came up with off the top of my head in one ramble. Whether it be photography, videography, script designing, graphic designer, set designer, web designer, lawyer, accountant. You have to be able to do so much. And sure, maybe you can outsource down the line, but even then, you're just maybe splitting off some of the roles. You're still doing such a large variety of things at the end of the day. But the good thing about this space is whether you're loud and eccentric, or whether you're quiet and introverted, everyone has a place here. I talk with one of my friends who keeps saying to me, "Oh, you're not doing it right. You need to be louder. You need to be more exciting." That sort of Sideman-esque, where it's like a presenter shouting to a camera. In which he was the one who introduced me to those things, so it makes sense why he's in that paradigm that's what succeeds. Where if you're watching other genres of content, as I'm sure many of you are, there are so many opportunities for people who are a bit more quiet, who are a bit more introverted, to succeed and flourish. Because once again, you're being pushed into your community. If you do represent this type of persona, you'll probably be surrounded by those people as well. So you don't just have to be this loud, extroverted character that tends to be the ones in the forefront of attention. And also, if you don't want to be on camera, that's also fantastic. Because to be a content creator or part of a content creation team, you don't have to be the one in front of the camera. Here are just 3 jobs that I looked off straight off the internet that I knew about, whether it be applying for Yes Theory, Mr. Beast, Airac, and plenty more. Whether it be a producer, a videographer, a thumbnail designer. There are so many opportunities to work as a part of a team doing some crazy, great things. You don't necessarily have to be the one in front of the camera. There are so many options. So why did I drop a startup that I was working on for this content creation space? Hence, why is this so much more valuable? Well, before I was working on a startup with a friend, something that was trying to be able to connect people who appeared to have differing political views and create a space where they could really communicate, come to an understanding, see where each other's experiences came from. However, by doing this, for one, looking at politics 24/7 is just depressing. And 2, it was targeting such a niche audience who would actually be willing to do that it wouldn't have achieved the outcome we wanted. But what did the creator economy offer? While I, in the creator economy, may not specifically be targeting politics, you can still promote the idea of communicating with one another, still promote the idea of opening up, telling the world your thoughts and opinions and a story that you want to tell by communicating with others who are less like you. There's much more of an opportunity to achieve this because you can build such a stronger connection with your audience here and have a much deeper impact than you could with any sort of traditional organization. So, that strong connection, also described as a parasocial relationship. Some of you may have heard this a million times, some of you may have never heard this before. But effectively, a parasocial relationship describes the one-way connection between a creator and an audience, where an audience feels like they are best friends with the creator because they watch them every day. The creator is speaking to them like this, as if they are a friend. They're not presenting to a crowd as if a TV game show host would be. They're speaking to you as if you're right there. And they're doing that every part of the day, while you're making breakfast, while you're in the bathroom, while you're on transport. They're sometimes there more than your best friends and family. So in a way, it builds this extra strong relationship that, once again, hasn't really been seen before. So how are you able to achieve this relationship as on the creator side? There are 2 main things that I found. 1 is niching down, and 2 is being able to capture emotion. These 3 people that I have selected here are 3 people that I started creating content with roughly at the same time. And those are the 2 main reasons why they have achieved way more follower growth than I have. And learning this hopefully means that you were able to have a faster journey as a result. So using them as examples, Byron Dempsey. I work with the guy who produces a lot of his video content, so I've managed to learn a lot of the inside there. But what he was able to do is capitalize on the COVID boom, where there were plenty of Year 12s feeling lost, didn't know what to do in their post-high school life. And he provided an opportunity for them where they felt like their voice was heard, giving them an opportunity to see what was possible, see what was out there. He runs courses that helps students find their way. And obviously, for one, being very specific in what he does, you know what you're coming back for, and capturing the emotion of this very specific demographic. MD Motivator, really promoting the kind-hearted, the really generous side of humanity, the positivity that we don't often see in today's press. So once again, very obvious, very specific in capturing the heartstrings of everyone watching him. And then Rachel Everin, really promoting that you can embrace your nerdy side, that you can really be passionate about what you are passionate in publicly, and it doesn't matter, that is cool. And the power of this community, you can achieve so many fantastic things. Obviously, as mentioned before, Beast Philanthropy being able to raise over $60 million for a variety of causes. Then also Yes Theory being a peak example where their community of audience is able to create sub-communities of people where they'll meet up in their own towns because they want to surround themselves with like-minded people who want to go on adventures, who want to do certain things. To the extent where even people get married within that community because they find people so close to them who relate so much. And then thirdly, Hagley West, Tim Hayden, who I ran into just walking down a random street in Amsterdam because I saw him post something being like, oh, I'll be in Amsterdam soon, and I thought it was for the weekend when I was already gone. But then I was just walking down that day after lunch and I'm like, hold on a second, that guy looks familiar. And he'll just post up anywhere in Europe, he'll start live streaming, and the first person that finds him gets one of his watches for free. And the guy that ended up finding him took him 4 minutes, and all he had to go off was somewhere in Amsterdam. So that is a testament to the strength of a community where they can find you that quickly and care enough to find you and really be a part of your journey. And another great example, probably one of the biggest currently happening at this moment, is Ryan Trahan. He's had a couple of penny series before where he might try and survive for a week on a penny or go from a penny to a house. Where for this month, he has tried to go from LA to North Carolina starting with 1 penny. And in so doing, also have a fundraiser for Feeding America. He expected to maybe raise about $100,000 top. That was already surpassed within the first couple of days. And as you can see, by day 23, already blew past $1 million. And what also promoted it is every time someone donated $50,000, he would have to start back from 1 penny again. So really making it feel like it's not just a fundraiser, but by fundraising, you get to be more integrated into the content. Once again, be more a part of the community and what is happening. An extension to this community atmosphere, this community environment, collaboration is such a core component of social media. Looking back to some of the most original creators on the platform, some ones that have kind of come up, disappeared, doing their own thing now. This is just a screenshot from his channel, and all of them, the vast majority, involve someone else. This industry is not a zero-sum game. You're not trying to compete against others. By working together, you promote the space as a whole. And yes, sure, people have a limited amount of attention, but you're not taking people's attention away from YouTube, other YouTubers or TikTokers or Instagrammers. You're taking their attention away from maybe a Netflix movie, maybe playing Terraria or Minecraft or any other things that are going on. So really focusing on working with others is key to being able to grow a strong, good community of like-minded people who also are maybe other creators, as well as being able to promote your own journey and the journey of others, really creating a positive space to be in. And the networking, you have to build that community and collaboration somehow. These are just some examples where either people have reached out to me or I've reached out to others just due to the content that we are creating. For example, the top left, someone saw my content on TikTok. They reached out to me through Twitter DMs, which I didn't see for a month because who checks Twitter DMs? But then we've done some work together. We communicate maybe every other week or so. And hopefully when I finally can get over to the US, maybe we can meet up. Then the one on the right, he's a young kid out of Canada who managed to interview Mark Cuban. I'm like, that's pretty cool. How do you do that? So I DM'd him asking for his advice, and we had a couple of things back and forth. Then Seema Gandhi at the bottom, who was the CEO and co-founder of Creative Juice, I made a video about her company, then she commented underneath, and then I managed to get an interview after DMing her on LinkedIn. But by being able to build these networks and connections, just by reaching out, you never know what will happen. And for one, it will build that community of people who you're on that journey with. It's not just the community of the audience, but it's the community of peers. You're able to feel like you've got extra strength, you've got extra confidence in what you're doing because there are others just like you. So now that we're done with this community aspect, how do we get the dough? How do we get the bread? How do we get the money? Obviously, that's the most important. No. But you need some way to survive in this industry, right? In any industry. Otherwise, you're not being able to pursue what you love because you've got to work a 9 to 5. Obviously, the traditional method of bringing in revenue was clothing. That's where a lot of it started because it was just the easiest thing to make and most obvious. For example, obviously, you got the photo of me wearing Seek Discomfort merch, and then you've got the photo of my magician friend Josh wearing Gary Vee's shoes. Because by creating a piece of clothing, for a lot of people can bring in a lot of revenue. Like with one of Logan Paul's drops years ago, he did $1 million a day for 3 days, let alone whatever happened after that. So there is lots of potential there. But even if you're not bringing in massive amounts of revenue, it allows your core community to build a stronger connection with you because they feel part of that community by wearing an article of clothing from that, which other items you don't have that. Sure, maybe you could have a digital product, but actually wearing a piece of clothing, that is a lot stronger than pretty much anything else out there in the world. And then obviously you've got the other methods of books, AdSense, meaning advertising on videos, and brand deals. Some of the other methods, just a couple listed out there: digital products, courses, events, maybe you're a comedian, food, Beast Burger, brand partnerships, the usual affiliates. Maybe you're saying, hey, I love this camera, you should buy it too. Patreon, consulting, newsletters, startups, venture capital, and just producing ads. Like for example, Zach King. He doesn't make a lot of money from his videos in that they're lots of short videos, so they're not that monetizable. But a company, like an airline, might come to him and they say, we want you to make us a safety briefing. And that's how he brings in a lot of his revenue, as you would do in a lot of your freelancing jobs anyway. Traditionally, with a business, you'd build a product, you'd prototype it, and then you'd try to sell it to your audience. Where now, in this new age, you build an audience, and then you have to create the product that they're already asking for. It's a complete flip on the traditional way of building a brand, building a business. Yes, it might take longer because you've got to build the audience in the first place, but once you've got an audience, you have so much more ability to do things. Whether that be, once again, selling a product, whether that be trying to raise money for something. It's a much stronger community bond that you have and more ability to achieve things down the line once you have that audience. A successful example of a product is obviously Peter McKinnon's everyday camera bag, which raised $3 million in Kickstarter. And there's a reason it got that much, because it's actually good. I mean, that's why I literally have it myself, because it's the best bag that I've ever used. It's high quality, obviously in the premium range, it's bloody expensive, but it means what you know you're getting good. And then because it's premium, it reflects on his brand. If you were to make a bad product, it would make him look bad. So we may as well make it more expensive, a few less people buy it, but it reflects on him as producing quality products, and hence Peter McKinnon as a brand being quality. This was a slide from an assessment that I did last year where we talked about the Dunkin' Donuts and Charli D'Amelio partnership and how successful indeed it was. For example, some of the basic statistics: app downloads increased 57% within 24 hours of her signature drink's release, cold brew sales up 24%, and then 45% the following day. If this isn't a testament to the success of creative partnerships, I don't know what is. And the fact that the hashtag got over 157 million views whenever I screenshotted it last year. Imagine having to pay for that outright. No one would have the budget. And obviously the Kolder Creative course, a great way where people are like, oh, I want to learn what you do, how you do it. It's a perfect way to be able to facilitate that education where you're like, here's a cultivated, perfect location where we're not worrying about algorithm, we're not worrying about reach, but if you want to learn what I do, how I do it, here's the place to go. And just for basic numbers, if you have 1,000 people paying $100 for a course, that's $100,000 right there. So it's a great place to be able to bring in revenue as well, and a great place for your audience to learn what you do, how you do it, and really feel like you're a valuable person in the space. And obviously, we have to talk about the Web3 space. A lot of it's overrated. It's all speculative at the moment, so don't stress about it. But this is an example of where it goes right, where it goes well, and where it's successful. Gary Vee, 10,000 NFTs with his first VeeFriends launch, $50 million in primary sales, $40 million in secondary sales, in which he gets 10% of, meaning $54 million in the first month. But the reason it did well, the reason it succeeded above most other projects, is because once again, he focused on the community. Rather than just saying, oh, you get this image of a monkey, great. He was like, you get certain perks. Maybe you get courtside seats at the Knicks game. Maybe you get to have a Zoom call with him once a month. But on top of that, he recently just had his VCon, where everyone with one of his NFTs effectively acts like a ticket, where you can attend his business, marketing, media conference with massive speakers. So once again, really focusing on what does his community want, what sort of group are they a part of, and really facilitating that and providing that value. And if you want your own startup, it's a perfect opportunity for that as well. Johnny, Lizzie Harris, and a bunch of other great photographers, videographers, travelers put together effectively the Skillshare for travel, because they figured there's a gap in the market here. Our audience knows us for teaching them these certain things. Well, why don't we fill that gap? Because you have the audience you can funnel into the business. You're not then trying to convince people that it's good. You already have people there and waiting. But that was the macro side. But obviously, taking the first step is the most important. How can you get over that first stage of, I want to get into this space, but I just need to start. I need to get that momentum going. For one, the best thing to do is to remove the barriers to entry. Make it as easy as possible to get going. Whether that's just typing a tweet, making a LinkedIn post about a thought you had that day, or even just filming a video on your phone and posting it to TikTok or Instagram. Make it as easy as possible to get started. Because if you think too much about the strategy, too much about how you're going to absolutely optimize every part of this process, make a YouTube video, make thumbnails, titles, you're never going to get started in the first place. You're going to get burnt out quickly before you even realize how much you enjoy it or don't. It's a great way to find out what you don't enjoy. Also, once you start doing this, you need to start finding your comparative advantage. What makes you different? What makes your story unique? Is there a community that you're part of that you feel is underserved? And do you have a specific message for the world? Is there something that you have always been wanting to say? Because there are a million people in one niche. If you just say photography, if you just say videography, you're never going to stand out there. But when Peter McKinnon came up, he was very specifically cool photography, videography tutorials. Before that, it was just a lot of kids in their basement filming something on their webcam. So he was very easily able to fill a niche there. Whether it be 100 other people in the space, what makes you unique? What makes you different? Are the things that people always mention about you? How do they describe you to their friends? Like, oh, it's a Parker Forest that does this thing. Is this thing something that you can capitalize on? And acknowledging that it takes time. I had to post over 500 videos before I even had 1,000 followers on any platform. And obviously I had a few more to go because I didn't know what I was doing at the start. It's all experimentation, but don't expect things to blow up in one day. There's very few people who have that kind of success, and even then they run into a million other problems because they didn't have the time to develop and progress as a human being. I mean, even if you just watch the D'Amelio show on Disney+, it's an absolute testament to why blowing up instantly isn't the best thing to happen. Whether it be because, for one, you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want, and now you're trying to find out what are you doing in this world with severe public judgment. You don't have the opportunity to fail in private anymore. So take advantage of that fact that while no one's watching you have the opportunity to experiment, you have the opportunity to fail. And the fact that no one's watching you is actually a good thing in the beginning. So as you develop your skills, as you develop who you want to be, what you want to do, once things start picking up, you have a lot more rocket fuel behind you that will hopefully propel you a lot further, more consistently for a longer time than you would have been able to otherwise, because you have more confidence and ability in yourself and what you're doing. So then, saying all those things, which platform should you start on? Well, there's a few different thoughts that I have on each one, and this is more a qualitative analysis from my experience and talking to others rather than a pure analytical quantitative stance. Facebook, if you're starting out, I wouldn't start on there. There's a few demographics on there, maybe a bit of the older demographic who's just scrolling through on their iPad before bed, but that's about the market that you're targeting. Instagram, there's been lots going around at the moment about, obviously they're not really paying fair, they've suppressed a lot of the photo content and a lot of things going on. But there's no other platform which is effectively a digital identity. If you're trying to get someone's contact details, you don't get them on TikTok, you get them on Instagram, because that's where you message them, that's how you find out about their life. So if you want to achieve that, you definitely need to have a presence there. I wouldn't put all your energy into it, maybe unless you're a photographer, videographer, that's a bit of a better space, but definitely at least have that going on somewhat. YouTube, 100% the best platform for longevity. It is the only one of these that actually provides solid monetizable options, in that it gives you AdSense. Brand deals are better and higher paying. Your community is more dedicated because they selectively choose you and then watch you for 10, 20, 30 minutes rather than just scrolling through it and it gets shown for 10 seconds. So definitely have a YouTube no matter what you do. Twitter, it's great if you have a couple ideas. There's lots of thumbnail designers that put stuff out on Twitter and they do really well. But I wouldn't personally start there. But depending on your niche, if you're a journalist, if you're, once again, thumbnail designers and want to spark proper conversation, Twitter's the best spot for that. TikTok, low barrier to entry, more ability to have a voice. But TikTok's like a megaphone. While you're speaking to the crowd, there might be lots of people there. But you need to make sure that you funnel them elsewhere. You funnel them to your YouTube, they funnel them to your Instagram. Because there's no real way to monetize on TikTok. Yes, you can get brand deals if you're lucky, but once again, it's not as consistent, it's not as stable, and there's plenty of things that go on where people get randomly banned, so use it as a megaphone, use it as a way to redirect an audience. And also engage with comments and people in there, because once again, it's a lot more authentic and natural way to speak to someone here. If you're like, hey, someone was talking about this, I thought I'd give my advice, than a pre-prepped YouTube presentation. So know where each one holds their value. And then LinkedIn, some of you may know it as a traditional business networking tool, but it's really started pushing a creator-centric side to it, where it has an organic feed where people post ideas, content. What I'd use LinkedIn for is, while the other platforms are there so you can engage with your audience, LinkedIn is where you engage with your peers. The amount of people from high-level companies that are engaged with on LinkedIn, because I post something, they comment on that. They post something, I comment on that, talking about our thoughts and experiences with certain things happening within the space. So I once again 100% recommend having a LinkedIn, but view LinkedIn as communicating and networking with your peers rather than your audience, as opposed to all of the other platforms out there. And once again, if you don't have any followers, that doesn't matter. There are so many opportunities that can come from it. As I mentioned before with the networking, where I had people DM me or comment on my YouTube, which led to other opportunities, you don't need followers to have those things happen. People just need to see that you're dedicated and obviously what you're doing. Because while I don't make money off Instagram, by me posting photos and videos of my content and what I'm doing, a friend or family is like, we need a photographer or videographer to help with this project that we're doing. Oh, Parker's been posting stuff. Why don't I DM and see if he's able to help us? So it is also just building a brand and saying, hey, I exist and here's what I do. And you don't need followers to be able to achieve that. And one of the most important things is find local people in your same journey. It's great and absolutely fantastic to have people who may be across the world doing things that you can DM, but it's even better to have someone who you can sit with in person, who can film each other's videos, help each other out, because it's such a volatile space. Sometimes you're on a high, sometimes you're on a low because nothing seems to be working. So to have people there who you can constantly bounce ideas off, who are on the same journey as you and on the same path, that is just an invaluable thing to have. And you can find that by going to events where those people might be set up. You can look at uni and put things out to see if other people are related in the thing that you're doing. Or even on TikTok. One of my closest friends who I work with often now, I saw him post videos on TikTok and I DM'd him because it turns out he was in the local area. And now we've worked on a ton of projects together and have gotten really close. And another guy, I was managing the social media at my university, and he came up wanting to help with the YouTube. So now we've connected, bonded, constantly Zoom, talk about what we're doing, the struggles we're going through, how we're going to progress and optimize everything that we're doing. And there's so much more enjoyable and so much more powerful to have people there with you along the way.